Edutrainment Workshops, the insurance industry's leading education and training platform, presents Life Insurance, the entry-level series, the products, the underwriting, and the planning applications to position your practice as the premier provider of insurance products in your community. Get on board, get on track, get to where you're going. And now, your Edutrainer, national insurance columnist, Steve Savant.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm Steve Savant, your Edutrainer and coach for our Edutrainment workshops. And all the next Monday, well, I'm going to say a good month or so, we're going to be doing our introduction into annuities. And today we're going to focus on the vocabulary of annuities. I can't get through it all because it's really intense, but you'll be able to order it at thebiz at brokersalliance.com. The complete vocabulary at thebiz at brokersalliance.com. That's THEBIZ at brokersalliance.com. And speaking about brokersalliance.com, we're on our website, and if you miss any of our shows, not only for our annuity, but any other our training, you can go back out to our site at www.brokersalliance.com and hit the red on demand button, and you can go through our archives, not only for Edutrainment workshops, but for the Business Insurance Zone and my weekend show called Welcome to the Weekend with Steve Savant. Well, let's get into it today. Vocabulary, the basic ones. There's so much in here. I'm going to try to stick to the vocabulary that I think you're going to need right away. And once you order this, you'll be able to put this on the side and walk through it. So when I'm talking, you'll say, oh, I know Steve mentioned that word before. Let's go ahead and go back into the vocabulary. So always have it open. Always have it right on your side, just in case. And I do it alphabetically, so that if you want to be able to say, boy, I don't remember what that meant. And there are phrases in here that you need to know. So it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve issue. Well, let's get into a basic one, the account value. Now, what is the account value? It's always interesting. A client's going to get an annual statement at the end of the year, and it's going to give the account value. The account value is the gross annuity that was contributed, plus any gain, hopefully no loss, but any gain, prior to any adjustments, prior to any market value adjustments, any premium taxes, and any surrender charges. And for our discussion now, I'm just talking about the account value. I'm not bringing up anything about taxable or non-taxable events. I'm just saying when I get my statement, my annual statement, it's going to tell me these things, and it's also going to tell me if there's any surrender charges, any applicable market value adjustments. It's going to bring me into an area where I know that's my number for today in this time. And of course, I want to get past the surrender year, so if I want to take access, but most of these contracts are going to allow you to take withdrawals. Now, most of them are penalty-free withdrawals. Not all of them, but 95% of them are. And so you could access your annuity contract with its withdrawal provision, just heads up. Any withdrawals prior to 59.5 could be exposed to a tax liability, and you'd have a 10% penalty for pulling it out before. The only way to get around that generally is to some sort of an annuitization process. Annuitization is taking your annuity and making payments out of it. It could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or lifetime. It could be joint, it could be single. We'll get into some of that all this week and just kind of walk you through it. Now, what's really important is who am I going to choose for the annuitant? The annuitant is the person who we're putting the money on, and his mortality, her mortality, is what we're looking at, and that's how we calculate it. So if you were using me, it has my age, it would be my name, my social security number, I would put all my information, and I would be the annuitant. Perhaps my wife would be the owner as well as the beneficiary, so that when I would die, it would be transferred to my wife. She would be able to take that on as the owner. She was already the owner, so she would be able to go ahead and take that, and she could be a beneficiary. She'd be the beneficiary as well, but there'd be a contingent beneficiary. When I look at the word beneficiary, I'm trying to say, who will get this annuity if something happens to me? Well, in this case, my wife is owning it. She already owns the money. She could get that money anytime she wants. So if they're doing it on my life and she is the actual owner, she already has constructive receipt, she already owns it. And remember, because she owns it, any monies that come out of there will be a taxable event on whatever her bracket is. If I'm alive and we take it out, there's going to be our joint filing of our 1040. If I'm already gone and she takes it out, then it's going to be at whatever her tax bracket is as a single person. So you just want to look at these things and say, is it important? Well, it's very important. Who do you want it to be the annuitant? And there are reasons to look at both sides of the story. Should it be the husband or the wife? Should it be a business partner? Depending upon who it is, you have to look at who's going to bring the best money and the best taxable or the least taxes if I have to take money out or generate some kind of an income. Now, when I look at contingent beneficiaries, who would back that up? So if my wife is the beneficiary, I'm going to have my children, more than likely, maybe my grandchildren, they're going to be the contingent beneficiary. So if something happens to my wife or myself, then those children can actually be the backup. And you want to be able to really think about that. What's the best way to assign the annuitant, the owner, the beneficiaries, and the contingent beneficiaries? It all matters. And I want to look at the tax ramifications on whoever I put in there as owner, because those are the people, whoever owns is the person that's going to be exposed to whatever tax liability it is that ever occurs. And so you always want to be tasteful and think about this. And again, before moving forward with anything, always check in with your tax advisor or your tax attorney just to make sure that you're setting this up correctly as a producer or a life insurance or annuity agent. Now, another thing that I look at is this word, I talked about it again, the word annuity. Well, yesterday I talked about it came from the Latin word annua. And that word, this payment idea, this kind of distribution in pieces. So it gives you payments. I've noticed that many people, when they win the lotto, a lot of people take the single lump sum, they take that money, and then they have to pay a huge tax bill because they just want it right away. But if they actually looked at the actual payments, amortized or spread over their life, the actual return on the lotto would be way better. But some people say, I don't know if they're going to be around, so I'm going to take constructive receipt of the single deposit, which is always less than the payments. So they want you to take the payments. Interestingly enough also, reverse, people are buying annuities that are payments. Maybe you had a settlement because of an accident. Some people say, well, what are you getting? Well, I'm getting $10,000 a month for the rest of my life, but I need money now. You've seen those commercials. So they could go ahead and somebody could come and say, I'll single deposit, I'll buy your annuity off you for a single deposit. You're out of that annuity. They get to get the stream of income, but they paid you a lump sum. And you have to sit there and say, is that a good deal? Was that a good deal? When I'm looking at this, we've talked about beneficiaries, we've talked about what an annuity is, and also I want to talk about basis. Basis is my original contribution. What did I put into the annuity? That becomes my principal or my corpus or my basis. That money will always come out free in a non-qualified scenario. If I have an annuity inside a qualified plan, my basis and my gain is a taxable event on distribution. But non-qualified basis, that can come out free. The only problem is after 1982 in August, we changed the rules from a thing called first in to first out to last in, last out. So when you look at it, it's FIFO and LIFO, last in, first out. So now when the money comes out, they always say all gain comes out first and basis is taken out second. So when my gain comes out, it's all taxable, whatever my marginal bracket is. We'll get into that towards the end of the week here. And I'll talk about why that matters. And then when you do recover all your gain and you've paid your taxes on it, you're able to take and recover your basis. And that basis, a non-qualified basis, comes out absolutely free. And there are some scenarios used in single premium immediate annuities or annuitizing an annuity for life where the basis could get some of that basis up front and amortized over your life expectancy. It would be spreading it out, but at least you wouldn't have to wait till the end. You'd be getting some of that. And I'll draw a little bit of this out for you on the board as we get to the end of the week. Now, the phrase I just talked about where you get the basis on a payout, that's called the exclusion ratio. Why is it excluded from taxes? Because it was your original contribution, your original basis, your original principal, your original corpus. Notice that there's so many phrases for this. For our purposes, I just want to try to agree with the fiduciary market or the CPA or tax attorney. I try to stay on point and always use the word basis. Because it's easy. When I'm talking with a client, I might say your original contribution or your original principal or what did you actually write a check for? Anything to make it simple and easy to understand. But again, we have so many ways of expressing that. That's just one of those ways. Now, one of the things about an annuity is that if I buy a single premium deferred annuity, a fixed annuity, an indexed annuity, a variable annuity, and I'm holding it for a period in time, the taxes are tax deferred. And we're going to get into this Friday some more, but that's the real feature of annuities. I can accumulate money at a given rate or a given indice or a given equity account if I'm in variable, and I can have those numbers accumulate, tax deferred. as long as they're in a non-qualified setting. Again, any annuities inside a qualified money, that money is tax deferred automatically because it is a qualified plan. And when it comes out, it'll be fully taxable. But a non-qualified scenario where the annuities are actually outside a qualified plan, that money will come out, and as that money comes out, I'm able to pay taxes on the ordinary income side of that and taxes on the base and no taxes on the basis. So I always get my return, and that exclusion ratio, that's excluded, basis is excluded because it's my original contribution. And by the way, 90% of the time, since it's your original contribution, it's already been paid. Again, in this vocabulary, you can order it at thebiz@brokersalliance.com, and it explains the idea of FIFO, first in, first out, and LIFO, last in, first out. So in today's market, in 2012, all gain comes out first because it was, remember, last in. What was last in? The gain that was credited. What comes out first then? My gain, and I have to pay full taxes on it on my whatever my blended marginal bracket is. Now remember, there are fixed annuities. When we talk about fixed annuities, you could lock in a rate. I'm sorry to say they're not very good rates today, but back in the day when I came in, you could lock in a 10-year guaranteed contract at 10%. Think about that, a 10% guarantee. In our market, we might be able to get 3% for a 5-year lockdown, and that's how low interest rates are. Sooner or later, I think the interest rates will go back up. If you're conservative, you don't want to play in variable. You don't want to use market-adjusted annuities. You don't want to have to play the possibility of an index not crediting in a year. Sometimes you need to go to a fixed and sleep at night. And when you look at you can go to certain websites that actually you'll see the CD rates generally, the annuity rates at a given duration are going to be outperforming that. And remember, back to tax deferral again. I don't pay taxes until I take constructive receipt. And when I take constructive receipt, if it's a non-qualified, I pay taxes on the gain, but I don't pay taxes on the basis. The cool thing about the power of deferral is you can stretch it out. If you don't need the money, if you don't need to take constructive receipt of it, it keeps accumulating, compounding. And one of the theories is the longer you can hold compounded, it will not only give you good income, but that income which you can stall, if you can hold off and defer, that means other income like Social Security. You'd be able to take your Social Security out, and that would not be taxed because of you holding your annuity, because you're deferring it. You're not taking any money out of it. So it actually can give you some net effect later on when you have to take it out because you probably need some money, and then of course it will affect your Social Security. CD holders do this all the time. They take money out, and then that also is counted for the Social Security. They're getting taxed on a small rate, especially in today's environment, and they're also on top of that exposing their Social Security to the provisional income test. We'll get into that as the weeks go on. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, basic ideas: guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit, guaranteed minimum accumulation benefit, and guaranteed minimum death benefit. Did you notice that there are 3 big words that were the same, adjectives? Guaranteed. Guaranteed lifetime, guaranteed minimum accumulation, and guaranteed death benefit. Rather than giving you the actual acronyms, which I'll probably default into as we go on in our class, I'm just going to spell it out to you now. But generally, those are the 3 that I'm looking at. Does the annuity have a guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit? Does it have a guaranteed minimum accumulation benefit? Does it have a guaranteed minimum death benefit? I'm looking at those 3 areas always to say, if they have it, do I have to pay for it, or is the cost already absorbed and embedded in the contract? I always want to look at other issues like, do I have a guaranteed withdrawal period? What is my guaranteed lockdown rate? The one I used a actual idea of saying 3% for 5 years. I have a guaranteed rate. Now remember, at the end of the 5 years, if I wanted to stay with that contract, the renewal rate could be going down. But you have that window to walk out from your contract after it's done. So I want to know, what's the period? What's my lockdown? How long do I have to hold this? And what about surrender charges along this area? Surrender charges it's a hard thing. CDs have the same issues of surrender charges. We have to sit there and say, is the longer period without any punitive surrender charge worth the actual benefit or worth the actual rate that we're locking down? Always look at those guaranteed areas when you're looking at vocabulary.
This has been an Edutrainment Workshop, the educational division of the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance.